Hello, and a very warm welcome to everyone here and online, and especially for those that are joining us for the very first time here at the Sydney Buddhist Centre. A very warm welcome to you all. Now, some of you who know me know that I'm a very avid traveller, and most of you find me exploring some magical part of the world, whether it be trekking on some mountain or visiting some historical temple. But the last 15 months has brought me on a journey of a very different kind, that of my cancer journey. And I'd like to share with you some of my insights and the impact that the Buddhist Dharma teachings has played on my life during that time. Now, at the end of 2019, life was pretty good. I had just taken 3 months off traveling through Europe. I was just offered a new work contract, and I had just completed my first ordination training as well. So life was full of hope and life was full of potential. But over the last 6 months prior to that, I had some trouble swallowing. In fact, my mother also has this difficulty. She has some trouble swallowing, and her test came back okay. So I didn't think too much of it. But at the encouragement of my family and my friends, I did get a test. I got a gastroscopy. So suddenly, on the 14th of November 2019, the doctor informed me that I have yet another title to add to my already long list of fixed self-identities, but I really needed another one, that of cancer patient. I had stage 3 esophageal cancer. It was one of those sliding door moments where your life changes forever and nothing will be the same. And it was even more of a shock to me because most people who get esophageal cancer are middle-aged men in their mid-60s that are overweight, who drink, who smoke. And for me, it was not fair because I was one of those people that had consciously and conscientiously kept healthy. I went to the gym, I did intermittent fasting, I did my vegetable NutriBullet juices religiously every day. So where was the karma in getting cancer? But I tell you, knowing what I know now, in my next life, I'm going to drink, I'm going to smoke, I'm going to binge eat, I'm going to party like there's no tomorrow. So, following this news, I took some time off work just to battle this cancer. And what the intention was in a few months after the diagnosis was that I would have surgery to remove my esophagus. And after the removal, they would then bring my stomach up and tie that up to my throat, and that would be my new esophagus. The preparation for that was quite challenging. I had 6 weeks of chemo and also radiation treatment, which left me very tired and nauseous and lethargic. And the preparation for that was also very challenging as well. Writing one's will, putting all of one's attachments down on a piece of paper, all the things that you spent your lifetime so carefully and meticulously gathering and collecting. And now it was a bit like a fire sale, you know, like things that were once so precious was just now stuffed and a burden. And summarizing your world, including your bank accounts and passwords on an Excel spreadsheet, was very humbling. And cleaning up one's house and literally putting it in order, because there's nothing more embarrassing than leading people to think that you're living in a dirty place. So, but during that time, I found it very difficult to meditate. When you're in the middle of the storm, meditation is difficult. And I was very pleased to be able to draw on what seemed like meditation credits for all the meditation that I had done prior to that. And I could draw upon that to be calm and a bit more collected. My Dharma studies, I come to every Monday night for Dharma teaching. I've been doing that for 10 years. And we've been studying things like shunyata and permanence and rebecoming. Things and studies and topics that were once so easy now seem so academic and so distant and so difficult to comprehend. Ironically, when death is just possibly around the corner, it was so difficult to accept that impermanence is true. I think we often know that we're going to die, perhaps cognitively in our heads, but not in our hearts, because perhaps there's part of me that goes, yes, 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 but not me. Why else is it such a surprise when death happens? It's such a shock when really it's the most obvious thing in the world. In particular, the 6 elements practice we do as a meditation practice here was so difficult. Reducing myself down to 6 elements, surely I was much more substantial than that. And craving, oh, it rose up so strongly, that craving. The craving was as strong, large and as ugly as a monster written in a Tolkien novel. The craving for me and the craving to live. So on March the 3rd, 2020, that was the day of my surgery at St. Vincent's Hospital. I remember waiting for that surgery. It was bucking down like it is today. I was in one of those unfashioned gowns with my butt flapping in the air, and the TV was on, and they were selling it was an inane topic about the latest vacuum cleaner that will make your life happy. And all I could do was just cry. I just kept pulling down those paper towels on the walls and just kept mopping my eyes. All I could do was just cry because I was so afraid of saying goodbye to my old self and all that I was able to do before. And the fear of saying hello to the unknown, what my new life was going to be like, and also possibly death if I didn't make it past the operating table. Waking up to my new reality, I was in ICU for 3 days in intensive care. And with my body filled with painkillers, I didn't recognize my mind either. My go-to place for calmness and meditation is meditation. And that didn't work because the painkillers acted very much like a hallucinogenic. So my arms were floating, my legs were floating, strobe lights were going, and I know a lot of people pay a lot of good money for this, but I hated it. I had no control. So with mindfulness clear and radiant, one of our 5 precepts, those words were so far away from me at that time, and what I would have given to have those words ring true. And as I was recovering in hospital for the next 2 weeks, I had to relearn simple things like sitting upright, learning to walk, learning to swallow, learning to talk again because of damage there and also nerve damage. So it would feel like razor blades on my stomach. I think you don't have to look very far in a public hospital ward to see the first noble truth, and that is life is suffering. You just have to hear the constant groans and the pain-shuffled walks to see the helplessness and the suffering that is in our everyday. This is also where compassion comes in, because we don't want to suffer and we also don't want others to suffer as well. Before I left hospital, I was given some more news. The pathology report of the esophagus that they removed came back, and they showed, unfortunately, that there was still some active cancer cells. So I was devastated because the threat of death was still alive. So the decision was made to put me back on 6 months of chemotherapy. So just in case the cancer cells had moved on and spread to other parts of the body, to kill it before it settled down again. So I returned home, but shortly after, I had to go back into hospital once every 3 weeks for 3 hours of chemo infusion again, and then 2 weeks of chemo tablets. And this chemo treatment was much stronger than the last one. And this broke me, both physically and mentally. Those meditation credits I was talking about, gone. I was in debt. There was lethargy and nausea, and lack of appetite. At my worst, I lost about 10 kilos. Because you don't eat, you have less energy. And because you have less energy, you don't want to eat, which was a vicious cycle. And apart from that, it was the mental battles as well, the malaise, because you've got some poison in your body. So your body is going, no, this is not right. The malaise is the feeling of discontent, the discontent sitting here, the discontent standing up. I try. So I'd like try to lay down. I feel discontent. So I was just, nothing felt right and everything felt uncomfortable. So I was just pacing up and down my apartment like a caged tiger, just trying to find some space. There were many days that I felt like I was just drowning, that I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't even get through the next day. But what I was just reminded is just to get through the next breath, and then the next breath, and then the next breath, because that's all I could manage. At home, a new version of myself was coming into being. I was shuffling around like a 90-year-old man, cradling and guarding my new scars. I have to sleep a little bit elevated now because I know I guess I rely on gravity for food to go down. I can't eat and drink at the same time. And foods that I grew up with, my mum's cooking of noodles and rice, I can't have too much of that because it causes me pain. So I missed my old body that I used to, which was like a four-wheel drive. I was able to go up and down Machu Picchu, go to Mount Everest Base Camp. When I was working, I could scoff down food and run from one meeting to another. And now I miss that because my body was now like a banged up 1988 Mitsubishi Magna, with hair damage. So it was a bit battered and bruised. It was a bit unreliable because I didn't know from day to day whether my body would cooperate with me. Some days I just couldn't. I just had to go back to sleep. And my body, I don't know what you can see, I've got so many scars. I've got a big scar up and around my neck. I've got 2 scars on my tummy, and I've got 3 scars on my back from that surgery. So I feel like I'm part of Chopper Reed's gang, Underbelly, something from Underbelly. So, I can be a bit menacing now. If you need any money to be collected, I can go around and mess people up. And the good news is that I can go to all the dodgy areas in town without feeling threatened. So in my darkest days, I did feel very angry at what I had to give up. And there were days that I was literally on my hands and knees, completely broken. And I had no choice but just to surrender. Just surrendered to my old self and surrender to the moment, the mindfulness of the now, because that's all I could manage. And also in those darkest days, sometimes asking for help from the bodhisattvas, the archetypal figures, because when you're broken and you're desperate, you ask for help for anybody or anything that will listen to you. And this brings me to the now. So I finished my chemo treatment for the moment, and my test results have been quite encouraging. I'm still being monitored, and I'm still waiting on some test results for some suspect cells. But yes, so this month I've got a few more medical appointments. Since December, I've been on my rehabilitation phase. With my physical regime, I can go back to the gym now that COVID's a little bit on the back burner. I can go back to the gym. I've been doing yoga, and generally I'm feeling a lot more energetic. And slowly I'm increasing my weight, and with my immunity improving, I'm really happy to be here and to be able to see my friends as well. The physical rehabilitation is easy to see, and it can be measured in kilos or how well the scar has improved. But it's the mental scars and the mental battles which are proving tough for me at the moment. The Buddha said, whatever a bhikkhu or a monk frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. And for the last 12 months, my mind, when I was drowning, my mind has been filled with fear and trauma, loss, unfairness and sadness, as each appointment was a source of trauma. So with a dim lensed cutting view of the world, I probably haven't been operating from a space of plenty and generosity. there's anger and sadness, and there's a bit of post-traumatic stress associated with that. So now that I can breathe a little bit more and I've got a bit more energy, I love now not to work from a place of fear and anger and sadness that makes your heart feel closed and small and keeps me feeling like I'm working in the mud. But rather, I'd like to work from a place of plenty, an expansive way of plenty, by placing and putting in my mind and working with compassion, joy, empathy, and keeping that central to my everyday. And that naturally opens the heart and makes me feel lighter. And sometimes I just have to look at the blue, expansive sky to get inspiration there. But I also invite you to think about, what have you also been frequently thinking and pondering? What is your current state of mind? And what lens view of the world are you wearing right now? So my story is by no means unique. I'm sure you all know somebody personally, possibly with cancer or suffering. But here are some of my takeouts from my experience. First of all, get checked out when your body changes and do it as soon as possible. If I waited a few more months, it could easily have been stage 4 and I may not be here. Meditate when times are good. You need those meditation credits to draw upon, because meditation when you're in the thick of the storm is so much harder. When times are good, it's like you're a sailing boat, in calm weather, in the safety of a harbour. You can do your repairs. You can fix anything that's leaking. You can work on those. You can fix the sail. You can repair any broken sails there. And that strengthens you. But if you're in the middle of the storm, it's so much more harder to meditate. It's so much more harder to fix those leaking boats and repair those sails. And you have to, in my experience, rely on the good work that you did when times were good to ground and secure you. So nothing has been more powerful than that. And I went on a retreat, and that was like Christmas. It boosted my meditation credits to no end. So I do encourage you to go on retreats and to maintain your meditation. And those days that you happen to be in that storm, just focus on the next breath, just the now. It's all we've got. And just turning up to do that, that's a win. And every day is different. And some days that felt like my worst days end up being the turning point where things just changed and improved the next day. So just have that next day to look for. Hold all news, whether it's good or bad, with uncertainty. Life is never linear. I used to get one piece of good news. I think, great, I'm going this way, and then the next piece of news was really bad. So just hold things with uncertainty. And us as cancer patients, we have to do that. And to think otherwise, well, I think we're just deluding ourselves, because we never had that certainty anyway. Be vulnerable and ask for help. I couldn't have done this without help from my family and friends, and especially some of my friends here at the Buddhist Center as well. And I'm truly grateful for that. And not only help from family and friends, but from bodhisattvas, whether it be asking for courage from Amoghasiddhi, or compassion from Avalokiteshvara, or expansive openness from Ratnasambhava, or all of them. Just ask for some help. Be kind and have empathy to oneself. I put myself through 2 rounds of chemo and radiation surgery, and I'm sometimes angry at my body for not cooperating, but it's been through a lot. And I also know I'm not suffering. I'm not the only one suffering. Everyone is suffering. Death happens in many forms. Apart from the death when we finish our lives, there's the death of letting go of one's identity and our self-view and our views of ourselves. So letting that go and can be very liberating. And finally, to make the most of this time that we have here, to inch forward in our quest for enlightenment. It's a very short time, and if we can undo some of those shackles and to loosen our hold on our grasp on things and work towards enlightenment, then it's a real gift that we have. So I started off this talk with a journey metaphor, and every step over the last 15 months has felt like I've been climbing this big mountain, and I'm still climbing. But as a friend of mine has reminded me, the view from the peak is supposed to be amazing. So I'm grateful to be here with you, and thank you for listening. Thank you.